Oi, how we doing? Yeah, so right now, it's time for a fucking video, you cunts. Right, so let's get right to this fucking chase over here. Enough of my euphoric isms aside. If you can't tell, I'm feeling a lot better. A lot bit better. So I want to touch on this. A lot of people aren't too aware of it because it is kind of complicated, but I think I can simplify it enough that things make more sense. It's extremely important that the community at least parses some of these concepts. If you want to know more about these, I recommend Wired. I recommend my man's Bigums, AMC Bigums, as well as Randall Cornett. I really hope this gets into the mainstream because it is extremely important that people understand this because it makes these really monolithic concepts like dark pools and even short interest, it makes them a lot more tangible, a lot more palatable as far as information goes. So let's break down a few entities or just a few pillars in all of this. You have dark pools, which colloquially is what we know them as. These can also be equal to ATSs, alternative trading systems, as well as OTC. And that's very loosely speaking. This is more of a gray area as far as using the term over the counter goes, but still applicable. You have prime brokers, and prime brokers are actually banks. Okay? These are banks. And then you have hedge funds. Pretty self-explanatory. So why like this? Why are these three entities being put together like this? Well, when you have dark pool trades, when you have all this dark pool volume that is like 60%, 75%, sometimes even 80% throughout the day, this is trading taking place between prime brokers, aka banks. There's another concept we're going to add to this known as X clearing. This stands for external clearing. And pardon my horrible handwriting. I should be using my Etch-a-Sketch thing, but whatever. External clearing is what circumvents a lot of the traditional approaches that people like me, John Hollowatch, even people like Dave Lauer, this entirely bypasses the lens that people like us are able to use because X clearing stands for external clearing. I'm not going to bother writing it out. But this entirely circumnavigates people like the DTCC, even the NSCC, the National Securities Clearing Corporation, the OCC, and the entire reason is because when you have a trade settle, so on day one, right? I don't know why I'm using arrows to signify that. You have day one of a trade, and then you have day X. Day X is defined as the date of settlement, so when everything is said and done, when the buyer receives their securities, and when the seller receives their funds, right? There's X amount of days between these two events, but once this entire process has completed, this is known as a settlement. And what external clearing does is it collectivize this settlement process right here and circumnavigates the DTC, right? And not completely, it's not entirely opaque, but the amount of reporting and the frequency of reporting intervals is extremely just incoherent. Like it's very rare that you ever are able to acquire data that isn't stale by the time you see it because it circumnavigates traditional reporting. External clearing takes place at the prime broker level, okay? And it'd be a good idea, I'm fucking stupid as shit. It'd be a good idea if we define when and how external clearing takes place and how it's relevant, especially in the case of this and this, right? So let me move this a little bit. No, I'm too lazy. I'm just gonna move my gorgeous face because you know who doesn't love a little bit of narcissism? Fuck. Okay. So everything's gonna start clicking when you see this and when you have it explained by yours truly, the Captain Retard. So this is where things start to click. When hedge funds want to take a leveraged position, levered is a term people use. I prefer leverage. really any form of leverage or robust placement, if you will, they will seek prime brokers. Well, what are prime brokers? Prime brokers it's just a subcategory. It's a service that banks offer as far as the entire world of investing and trading goes. So you can seek things like leverage. You can seek hedging services even. It allows you to take a concept of creating a trade and giving it perks and benefits, essentially. And like I said earlier, there's going to be a lot of loose articulation here, so pardon my lack of scrutiny and semantics. So point being is let's make a new drawing here. So the point in this being is that if a hedge fund wants to open a position, they can go to a prime broker, which is really just created under someone like Bank of America, right? And Bank of America will actually handle all these trades. It's not like, so the hedge fund or whomever wants to open a trade and they're using the prime broker as this sort of proxy service. And through this, you can get things like leverage. There's perks and benefits that you get by selecting a particular prime broker. This is a market within its own, right? These prime brokers are also the ones responsible for securities lending. This is so inefficient, and I feel fucking stupid. Securities lending, external clearing, we've talked about this, which in itself is a very clever way to circumnavigate some of these reporting intervals that we talk about a lot. There is a whole slew of things that go on here, and if you listen to Mark Cahodes, and before everybody fucking loses their shit over me saying that name, Mark has provided a lot of great wisdom here and a lot of great data that none of us have ever heard of or would know about because he has been... I'm not even... Okay. So anywho, a shout out to Mark. Whether you like him or not, you can't deny that he knows a few things. So prime brokers are typically the ones responsible for some of the greatest catastrophes to ever happen. We all pray and hope that these catastrophes never make it to our day-to-day lives, but if you look at '08, when you look at... even the .com era, you had a lot of leverage, you had a lot of concentration and capital take place at the entity level here, which doesn't surprise anybody because who's ultimately providing these services. So I can lever up, I can do all these neat little things because I go with Charles Schwab or I go with Bank of America. The point in this being is that these trades all fall under this neat little mechanic known as continuous net settlement. And AMC Bigums has talked a lot about this, and shout out to him because this is a very big deal, and no one's quite had it put clearly in this instance. Continuous net settlement basically takes all of the members and constituents and creates a net of all of the positions created. If this guy shorts 100 shares, if this guy goes long 50, excuse me, if this guy goes short 200, and this guy goes long 150, then you tally all these up, right? So our net negative comes out to 300, negative 300. Our net positive comes out to plus 200. Well, that's a net of negative 100. CNS will then take all of these trades and create a new process, a new protocol where you can basically, what's the word for it? Whoever the presiding member is, I'm really going fuzzy here. My apologies. This Bigums helped me. But the net of this eventually can be converted into this logic tree of go in source or handle internally, right? And I think it's a T plus 6, I believe. T plus 6 is what this comes out to. So if there is a net negative going on here, and the presiding member elects for what is called a buy-in, then the member that, and again, completely fuzzy here, bear with me, go watch someone else because they know what they're talking about, I don't, but fuck. So this I know for a fact happens. I don't know what the exact interval is or what the selection process is, but there is a forced buy-in at some point if it isn't able to be managed internally. The underlying problem here is you see this spoke-like structure with the CNS being the hub. This can be jogged. This can be pedaled. so that you can have this continuous, full pun intended, position taking place that goes against what a typical market would recognize as a liquidity crunch if there's not enough supply or not enough demand, and converts it into this process that supports liquidity, it incentivizes market making, and blah, 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 blah. The problem is that there is a lot of room for exploitation here, and as far as reporting goes, it's very bleak. So with that in mind, how do we tie all this together? We had dark pools, we had prime brokers, we have hedge funds, and then we have X clearing. My point in all of this is that this is the level that needs to have scrutiny applied to it, because trades that are happening in the dark pool, the place that we see up to 80% of all trades taking place, is happening, yes, on dark pools. But what are dark pools? Prime brokerage services, alternative trading systems, over-the-counter trading, right? These terms we've all heard so many times and continue to hear, but there hasn't been concise explanation and application as far as how this happens in real day terms. I'm trying to pave the way for this and make it the talk of the town, because it has to be. Because if you want to know where corruption's at, you just look where the banks are. And where are the banks? I don't even have to continue writing it out. Right here. So I'm going to be making a ton of videos about this. I tried texting Bigums earlier, but it's a little late. So we're going to have Bigums on the show, I bet. And we're gonna really pry. We're gonna pry. So if you learned something, like, sub, fondle my balls, the usual. If you've made it to this part of the video, thank you for doing that. It really means a lot. There's gonna be a ton of videos following this up. So just keep digging, please, my friends. Just keep digging. That's what this is about, and that's the only way there's gonna be change. So thank you again. Peace, love, cocks, and cunts.